would happen to, like, in theory, to the Thai economy if there was zero tourists?
Well, we've found out after, 2 years. Interestingly, if you look at it, there's always this number of 20% thrown around. 20% of the Thai GDP is tourist-based. That's not really correct. I think it's more like 10 or 11%. And I think indirectly, the wives of tourists, or you could probably say, if you put expats into there and everything, it might be 20%. But just direct tourism from overseas would be 11, 10% or even less. Because over the last 2 years, we haven't had really any tourist industry at all. And the Thai GDP this year is going to be 2 to 3%. Western countries would be aching to have a growth schedule of the GDP of that. So it seems to me that Thailand's economy is resilient enough, even if the tourists don't come. They will come. I don't think we're going to see the 40 million number that we got in 2019 in my lifetime, or at least in this decade.
Yeah, at least 5-10 years, I'd say.
Sure, it's a long, long way off, because the world's got a lot of other problems at the moment besides
inflation, recession, money's expensive. I mean, how are you going to travel?
Chinese zero COVID policy. The Russians are busy.
Yeah.
So I think there are reasons that out of Thailand's control. So Thailand's got to become more competitive. It's got a great car manufacturing industry. It's self-sufficient when it comes to food. It didn't spend a lot of money during COVID to give to its citizens. It didn't print money because they got quite a lot in the bank. So they're going to come out of this whole thing quite well compared to a lot of Western countries.
Well, we still never know if the 2 to 3% growth of GDP, I mean, the Thai can control those numbers quite well.
Well, at the end of the day, there are sort of international measurements, and they can't hide it forever. But it seems to me over the past 2 years, with all the gnashing of the teeth and the attempts to reopen the borders and remove restrictions, that it's been able to survive without tourists. But I would think it would be a huge shame if nobody ever went to Thailand anymore.
Yeah, I just more theoretically speaking, I think, especially places like Phuket, it needs tourism. There's no way it's going to survive here.
Precisely. But hasn't it, selfishly, been fantastic here for 2 years?
I mean, Surin Beach just during that stretch, it was kind of had it to yourself. But you felt bad for the people selling on the beach.
Exactly.
They were like, there was a lady always selling scarves, and every other day I give her $100.
And by the way, that was Australian sarcasm, just so you know.
Just so you catch on to that.
Look, it has been devastating for people. But Phuket is what, 95% tourism? The tourists aren't coming here. There's nothing else.
But the baht's about to get beaten. It's 36 today.
Compared to the US dollar.
Compared to the US.
But if you compare it to other currencies, not so
well,
much.
it's the US dollar's at an all-time high right now. But I think I wouldn't be surprised, and I believe I could see the Thai baht going to 40 by the end of the year. But then it will come back.
Sure. I think the strength of the US dollar is the thing that is causing a lot of this. And it just cannot keep on going up the way it is. There's just nothing bolstering the strength of the US dollar. So we're having a heavy economic talk here. I think there's a lot of, big ups and big downs coming up in the next year that's going to affect us all. Yeah. So, watch this space. Hang on tight. Yeah. Turbulence ahead.
Do you think we're at the bottom, like in terms of like equity markets?
No, I think I actually watched 3 or 4 podcasts apart from yours. I love watching these economic podcasts and some of these Bitcoin podcasts. They're hilarious. I think we've got a really rough road ahead, and there's a lot of things that are out of our control. All we can do is make sure we've got a bit of cash in the bank, look after our friends, our folks, our health, and just buckle up, because I think that's going to be a rough ride for a while. I'm very grateful that I'm in Thailand. I think I'm safe here. And people can gnash their teeth and say, oh, it's a military dictatorship. Well, I haven't seen any tanks rolling down the streets. I haven't seen soldiers walking around with guns. You may disagree with the way the place is being governed, but if you're really against it, by the way, you can leave. I'm quite happy to stay here, and I'm grateful that I'm able to live here. I'm grateful that I got work. I've got a permit to be able to stay here, and I intend to stay here for a long time.